Ever get that feeling? You know, you're about to do something amazing, like a big presentation, an exciting date, or finally trying that trapeze class you've been eyeing.
Oh, absolutely.
And suddenly, it's like a tiny heckler takes the microphone in your brain.
The worst.
The worst. And sadly, throwing tomatoes is rarely an option.
Right.
But here's the thing. Turns out there's a name for this universal party pooper. And it's not just us being dramatic.
It's the inner roommate.
Oh, I like
A
that.
term coined by the brilliant Michael Singer.
I love that. He paints such a vivid picture in the untethered soul, feeling locked in there with a maniac, someone who could even ruin your wedding day.
Oh, totally. It's this relentless inner chatterbox that can really sabotage us.
Okay, but why? Why are these inner critics, or IRs, as I'm now affectionately calling them, so determined to rain on our parade? You'd think they'd want us to be happy.
Well, that's the fascinating part. It's not that they're intentionally malicious. In their own twisted way, they're actually trying to protect us.
Wait, hold on. Protect us by bombarding us with doubts and anxieties. That's like saying a porcupine gives good hugs, well-intentioned maybe, but incredibly prickly.
Exactly. It doesn't always feel good, that's for sure. But these negative voices often stem from past experiences, from pain that we've internalized.
Oh, I see.
Think about it, that time you tripped on stage during the school play, or that awkward first date that still haunts your dreams.
Don't remind me.
Those experiences, those wounds, they create these inner voices that try to steer us away from anything that might even resemble that past hurt.
So it's like they're trying to keep us safe, even if it means keeping us stuck in our comfort zones.
Precisely. Think of it like this. Your inner roommate is working with old, outdated maps. They haven't quite caught up to the fact that we've grown, we've learned, and we're capable of handling things differently now.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it also feels a tad overwhelming, knowing that there's this well-meaning but utterly incompetent roommate running amok in my mind. How do I even begin to deal with that?
Well, the good news is that there are much more effective and, dare I say, enjoyable ways to manage these inner critics.
Oh, do tell. Because I'm ready to swap that inner critic for an inner cheerleader, someone who believes in my potential, even when I have my doubts.
That's the spirit. And thankfully, the Untethered Soul Book Group is a treasure trove of practical and even playful strategies to quiet those negative voices and cultivate a more peaceful inner landscape.
All right, I'm all ears. What kind of strategies are we talking about? Because
Yeah.
if there's a way to turn my inner critic into a supportive best friend, I'm all for it.
Think of it as a toolbox for your mind. We've got techniques to help you simply observe those pesky voices, others to shift your focus away from them, and even some to completely change the relationship you have with them.
A toolkit for my mind. Okay, you have my attention. Let's open that toolbox and see what we're working with.
Yeah.
A toolbox for my mind. Okay, I love it. Where do we even begin? Do we get like a tiny hard hat to wear while we're at it?
Maybe a metaphorical one. But seriously, before we can start remodeling our inner landscape, we need to gather some intel.
Okay.
That's where the first set of tools comes, and basic awareness techniques.
Basic awareness techniques. Sounds very zen. Is this where I finally master that whole mindfulness thing?
You're on the right track. Mindfulness is all about paying attention to your present moment experience without judgment.
Right.
And one of the simplest yet most powerful ways to cultivate this awareness is with something called the noticing game.
The noticing game. Does this involve snacks? Because if so, I'm already winning.
Huh, I like your style, but no snacks required for this one. It's actually incredibly straightforward. All it involves is simply noticing without judgment the thoughts that pop into your head.
Okay.
Don't try to stop them or change them, just observe them as they come and go, like watching clouds drift by on a breezy day.
So instead of getting swept away in the drama of, oh no, I said the wrong thing, or what if I totally bombed this presentation, it's more about saying, huh, look at that thought floating by. Interesting.
Exactly. It's about creating that little bit of space, that separation between you, the observer, and the constant stream of thoughts. And once you start seeing your thoughts as events happening in your mind, rather than as being who you are, they start to lose their grip on you a little bit.
Wow, that's a game changer. Because we so often get caught up in those thoughts, those worries, those what ifs, to the point where we forget we have a choice in how much we let them define us.
And that's where practices like meditation can be so helpful. Meditation At its core is another form of awareness training.
Yeah, okay.
It's about creating a space between you and that inner monologue, allowing you to tap into a deeper sense of stillness and peace, even amidst the mental chatter.
It's like training your mind to be more like a tranquil garden instead of a jungle gym where those inner critics are doing flips and cartwheels.
Mhm.
Speaking of which, sometimes those inner critics are just plain loud out. Awareness is great, but sometimes you just want to hand them a metaphorical mute button.
Right.
What tools are in the toolbox for those moments?
I hear you. Sometimes you need to be a little more proactive with those attention-grabbing roommates. That's where our next set of tools comes in. Shifting focus techniques.
Shifting focus. I like the sound of that already. Does this involve noise-canceling headphones for my brain?
Wouldn't that be nice? One of the classics in this category is the use of positive affirmations.
Affirmations.
Yeah.
I've dabbles with those. Sometimes they feel empowering. Other times a bit cheesy, like I'm trying to convince myself of something I don't truly believe.
I hear you. They're not a magic bullet, and you have to find the ones that resonate for you.
Right.
But the key is to use them consciously and consistently. Instead of letting your inner roommate dictate the narrative with their doom and gloom predictions, you're choosing a different thought, one that supports your growth and well-being.
So it's like hitting the rewrite button on those negative scripts. Instead of, I'm going to mess this up, it's, I am capable, I am prepared, I've got this.
Exactly. It's about consciously shifting the energy, redirecting that mental energy towards a more empowering and supportive inner dialogue.
Love it. Are there other ways to shift focus besides affirmations? I'm all about having options.
Absolutely. One technique the Untethered Soul Book Group recommends is called RNR.
R&R sounds like my kind of acronym. Does this involve a beach and a good book?
Uh-huh.
Because I am SO on board if it does.
I wish, but it's actually much simpler, and you
Yeah.
can do it anytime, anywhere. Close your eyes and just bring your attention to the physical sensations in your body.
Okay.
Just notice, what do you feel?
So like if I'm feeling anxious, instead of getting lost in the worry spiral, I might notice the tightness in my chest or the feeling of my heart beating faster.
Yes, it's about becoming fully present in your body, without judgment.
Oh.
Those physical sensations become your anchor, bringing you back to the present moment.
It's amazing how shifting your attention to something physical can quiet those mental loops.
Yeah.
It's like your mind is saying, wait, we're focusing on something else now. Okay, never mind, carry on.
It's tapping into that powerful mind-body connection.
Yep.
And speaking of powerful techniques, there's EFT tapping.
EFT tapping, that's the one where you tap on specific points on your face and body, right?
Yeah.
It's like acupuncture, but without the needles.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's based on the idea that our negative emotions often stem from blocked energy in our bodies. Tapping on those meridian points can help to release that blocked energy, restoring balance.
I've heard amazing things about EFT. It's definitely on my to-explore list.
It's a simple but surprisingly effective tool. And while we're on the subject of shifting focus outward, there's another incredibly grounding practice, visual focus.
Visual focus, does this mean I should be making direct eye contact with my inner critic? Because I'm not sure I'm ready for that confrontation.
Not quite. It's about fully engaging with the external world through your senses, especially sight.
Okay.
What are you seeing?
So instead of getting lost in my thoughts, I might take a moment to appreciate the colors of the sunset or the intricate details of a flower.
You got it. It could be as simple as gazing out the window, noticing the way the light dances on the leaves, or taking a mindful walk in nature, really seeing the trees, feeling the breeze on your skin. It's a powerful way to reconnect with the present moment and all the beauty it holds.
I love that. It's like reminding ourselves that there's a whole world out there beyond the confines of our own minds.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just need to hit the refresh button and really take it all in.
Exactly. These techniques are all about reclaiming your attention, shifting your focus from those inner critics to something more expansive and life-affirming.
Right.
And, as we're talking about these different techniques, I'm reminded of another category that's just as important: changing the relationship with your inner roommates.
Oh, intriguing. Because it's not just about silencing those voices, it's about learning to relate to them differently, right? Like maybe inviting them over for tea and a chat instead of trying to evict them.
Exactly. Because as much as we might want to, we can't completely get rid of those inner roommates.
Right.
They're a part of us, even if it's a part we're trying to work with more skillfully. It's about finding a way to coexist peacefully, even playfully.
So how do we even begin to change that relationship? It feels like we've been stuck in this dysfunctional dance for so long.
Well, one approach is to start treating those inner roommates with more kindness and compassion, rather than constantly battling them.
Kindness for our inner critics. That feels counterintuitive, but also kind of brilliant.
It is counterintuitive.
Like maybe offering them a cozy blanket and a cup of herbal tea instead of a cease and desist order.
But think about it. When we approach ourselves with harshness and judgment,
Hmm.
what do we usually get back? More harshness and judgment.
Oh, that's so true. It's like that old saying, what you resist persists. The more we try to fight those voices, the louder they seem to get.
Precisely. So instead of engaging in that cycle, we can experiment with a gentler approach. Instead of yelling at your inner roommate to shut up, you might try something like, "Thank you for sharing your perspective. I hear you, but I'm choosing to focus on something else right now."
It's like setting a healthy boundary, you know? Like acknowledging their presence without letting them take over the entire house party in your head.
Exactly. And sometimes a little humor can go a long way.
Oh, okay.
Remember, these are just thoughts, not life or death decrees.
So instead of getting all serious and reactive, it's more like, all right, inner critic, I see you trying to crash the party with your negativity. Nice try, but I'm putting on my dancing shoes and celebrating anyway.
You got it. That's the spirit. And the Untethered Soul Book group had some wonderfully creative approaches along those lines.
Oh, really?
One that really stood out was this idea of IR play.
IR play, like a game night for our inner critics. What do we play? Negativity bingo.
I wish it were that simple. But it's about using humor and absurdity to create some distance between you and those pronouncements.
Okay.
One group member shared that whenever his inner critic starts piping up, he imagines it speaking in a really goofy voice,
funny.
like a cartoon character or even in a bad British accent.
So it's like you're taking those negative thoughts less seriously, like they're coming from a stand-up comedian doing a bad impression of your anxiety.
Exactly. Another technique they found helpful was IR letter writing.
Okay, what is IR letter writing? Am I sending a strongly worded letter to my inner critic via snail mail, return to sender, negativity not accepted here?
Huh. It's a bit more internal than that.
Okay.
It involves having a dialogue with your inner roommate on paper.
Oh,
Write down what that critical voice is saying word for word, then switch hands and write a response from a place of self-compassion and understanding.
it's like giving the thoughts a voice, but then also giving yourself the space to talk back, to offer a different perspective.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to gain clarity and perspective on those inner battles.
Yeah, I like that.
And then, of course, there are visualization techniques.
Oh, I love a good visualization.
hmm
What kinds of visualizations resonate with this inner roommate work?
The possibilities are endless. One member visualizes her inner critic as a chattering monkey, swinging from vine to vine in her mind.
Oh, cute.
And when the monkey gets too loud, she gently guides it back to its perch, even offering it a banana for its troubles.
I love that. It's both hilarious and brilliant. It's a much gentler approach than, say, trying to wrestle a monkey into submission.
Right. Other members have used visualizations like imagining their inner roommates on a Zoom call, muted, of course, or as characters on a TV show they can choose to turn off.
It's about taking back that control, that remote control for your mind. We've got all these amazing techniques, but what's the common thread? Why do these seemingly simple, even silly methods actually work?
At their core, these techniques are all about disrupting those automatic, habitual thought patterns that keep us feeling stuck.
Right.
It's about reducing our identification with those voices and creating some much-needed breathing room between us and those inner roommates.
It's like we're shifting from being trapped in a phone booth with a telemarketer to having a more spacious conversation in a park where we can come and go as we please.
I love that analogy. And, one of the most powerful ways to solidify this shift is to connect with the truth of who we are beyond those voices.
Right.
The Untethered Soul Book group shares some incredible light bulb moment stories from people who've had that profound realization that they are not the voice in their heads.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Those aha moments are so powerful. Do you have a favorite example from the group that illustrates this shift?
One that really struck me was a woman who'd struggled with negative self-talk for years.
Wow.
She'd been practicing the noticing game, and one day it clicked.
Wow.
She was looking in the mirror, and even though her appearance had changed over the years, she recognized that same quiet observer behind her eyes.
It's like that observer, that awareness is the one constant throughout all of life's changes, all the ups and downs, all the inner chatter.
Exactly. Once she connected with that truth, she said it was like a weight had been lifted.
Wow.
She realized she wasn't those negative thoughts. She was the one witnessing them, and
Yeah.
that changed everything.
That's incredible. It reminds me of when I first tried that visualization technique of imagining my thoughts as clouds. I was going through a rough time, and I remember just sitting there watching as these thoughts, some pleasant, some not, drifted by. And I had this overwhelming sense of peace because I realized oh, I don't have to hold on to any of these. I can
Right.
just let them come and go.
It really is liberating to realize we don't have to believe everything we think.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into quieting those inner roommates, what's the key takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with today?
You are not your thoughts.
Hmm.
You are the awareness, the consciousness that experiences them. Freedom, true inner peace, comes from learning to detach from that chatter and connect with that deeper sense of self.
It's like we've unknowingly handed over our power, our peace of mind to these in roommates, letting them call the shots. But we have a choice. We can choose to step back, to observe, to respond with kindness, to get playful, to visualize, to create a more harmonious relationship with our own minds.
Well, beautifully said. And, as we're talking about changing the relationship with those inner roommates, it begs the question, what happens when we create that space, when we quiet those voices? What or who do we discover then?
Ooh, that's a great question. And one we're going to explore in a future episode when we dive into the concept of the true self, that essence that lies beyond the inner roommate drama. But for now, I'll leave you with this thought-provoking question. Would you put up with a friend who spoke to you the way your inner roommate does?
Good one.
That's something to ponder, isn't it? So until next time, be kind to your inner roommates, explore those techniques, and keep diving deep into that fascinating world within.